Ready to start working for your money and start living life on your own terms? In this no holds barred episode of Keeping It Real on Purpose, I'm joined by Chris Miles, the cash flow expert and founder of Money Ripples. I love the word ripples. By age 39, Chris had already retired twice and now is showing high income earners how to escape the grind, unlock hidden cash flow, and build true financial freedom without relying on Wall Street's rules. Chris has been featured in CNN Money, BiggerPockets. I used to belong to them, yeah. Entrepreneurs on Fire, but today he's here to shatter the myths you've been told about money, wealth, and success. If you're tired of the traditional financial game and ready to create a life that aligns with your purpose, this episode is for you and it's going to blow your mind. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm excited to have you. I love talking about money. Love it.
Money's a good thing. We like it.
It's a good thing. So you retired twice by age 39. What does that say about the system we've been taught to believe about work and money? And is it a lie?
Yeah, it definitely is a lie. I'll tell you, the reason I did it twice, because people are always impressed. Like, how'd you do it twice by the time you're 39? The simple answer is
Yes.
I screwed up the first time. That's how I did it twice. It should have only been one time, but I screwed up the
Okay.
first time, so I had to do it
All right.
again, right?
Okay.
Kind of give you a little bit more of that backstory. I actually started out as I was going into my entrepreneur journey. I was actually planning to become a business consultant, but I figured I should have real
Okay.
life business experience if I'm going to tell people what to do with their business. So I actually dropped out of college, started trying to gain some experience, and I ended up my first business that I got into was being a financial advisor. And it was pretty
Oh.
easy to become a financial advisor. All I had to do is not kill somebody or not steal from a bank and pass the test with at least 70% and you're in. And that's what I
That's
did for
it.
4 years. And then
Okay.
after 4 years, what happened was, I sat down with my dad. My dad had reached out. He says, "Chris, I'm 61. I've already had heart attacks and strokes. I'm done. I've been sacrificing forever." I mean, the guy was like the penny pinching saver. He says frugal.
Right.
We all say cheap, right? And
Yes. Me too.
yeah, oh yeah, like he was like depression era mentality. And so I sat down with him. He had paid off his house, totally 100% debt free. He had been
Mhm.
stuffing money in his 401k. And yet at the end of that, I had to tell him, Dad, if you want to retire today at 61 years old, you're going to have to die in about 5 or 6 years because that's when you're going to run out of
Oh,
money. He
right.
said, "Well, that's not the answer I want to get from my financial advisor. What do I do?" I said, "I don't know. You did everything
Right.
right from what I teach everybody. So the only thing I can tell
Right.
you to do is keep saving, keep working, right? Just maybe work into your
Yeah.
70s." And he did,
Hmm.
unfortunately, to the point where
Wow.
he's alive, but he's not really living, if that makes sense, right? Because now
Right.
the health
Yes.
is
Absolutely.
sacrificed. He doesn't have all that time anymore, and so he lost it. And that bothered me. In fact, it
Hmm.
bothered me so much that eventually I started looking for other answers. And it finally wasn't until I
Okay.
talked to a friend of mine who I trained to be a financial advisor, but then he left my team to go do real estate investing. As we're arguing about what's
Mm.
better, stocks or real estate, he finally just asked me, he's like, "Well, Chris, how many of your clients are financially free where they don't worry about money?" So, well, none of them. They're
Hmm.
all like worried about running out of money too soon, even if they're retired.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this, Chris?
Right.
How
Right.
many of you guys as financial advisors are financially free, not off the commissions you're earning, but actually doing these investments? I said, well,
Mm. Okay.
none. There's guys been working here since the 1970s. This is back in 2005, right? I was like, there's guys been
Right.
working
Right.
for 30 years in this industry and they're still broke. He said, there's your
Mm.
problem. And so I started
Yeah.
to take that matrix red pill, right? I went to this whole other
Right.
world of like real estate investing and passive income and realizing I didn't even have to be the active investor. I could invest with these guys that were real estate investors and get paid regular stable income off of this. And the next thing you
Right.
know, one, I quit being a financial advisor because I couldn't teach a lie anymore because I realized it wasn't working. And then two,
Right.
I realized too is like it's about passive income. Like having income coming in to cover your needs. It's not about how much money you save. It's about what the income that comes off of it is what really matters. And
Right.
when I realized that, I found out later that next year in 2006, I was 28 years old. I had enough passive income coming in, I could quit. And
Wow.
that blew my mind, not thinking it was even
Hmm.
possible to do that young.
Right.
And yet I did.
Right.
Now, of course, everyone wants to know how you did it. So in 2007, I came out of retirement to teach people how to do what I did. Got
Mm-hmm.
together with some partners. We went all in into our business right when the recession hit, and we were focused on real estate investors primarily who were going broke. And so our
Right.
business was failing. My real estate was starting to fail. Everything was going up in smoke. I went from millionaire to upside down millionaire, where I was over $1 million
Wow.
in debt after all was said and
Right.
done with everything going
Right.
on. And so eventually I was able to dig out of that hole in my business. I was able to shift and pivot away from teaching about passive income. And I started teaching about how to find money, how to free up cash flow. And as I started to teach that during the recession, then our business started to turn around. It actually pulled us out of bankruptcy. And then that's why I was able to do it twice by the end of 2016, because then eventually I launched Money Ripples. And even though despite a divorce and everything in the middle, I was still able to come out of it, where this time around I was a lot wiser. I had a lot more investments coming in, pay multiple streams of passive income, so that I was better off. And that's where I've been ever since, teaching people how to do the same thing.
Right. So when you say multiple, is there a number? Because I know there's so many people, oh, you got to have this many, you got to have that many. But is there a limit to the multiples?
I don't think there needs to be a limit necessarily. And I think simpler the better. I think you can have too many. And maybe there's a number. Maybe there's too many. It depends on how comfortable you are in your stewardship of that money.
Right.
Some people
Gotcha.
don't mind having dozens, while other people are
Hmm.
like, I can't manage more than like 5 or 10, and that's
Right.
fine.
Okay.
Like in my case, I have about 15 or 16, I think, when I last
Okay.
counted. And so it's
Hmm.
awesome. But at the same time, it's like there's still a stewardship. You have to manage that, right? And so
Yeah.
that's one thing about passive income, is that it's never 100% truly passive, in the sense that you can just be brain off, never think about your money
Right.
again, let it
Yes.
sit
Yes.
somewhere, and you could ignore it, set it and forget it. The problem is that's what financial advisors teach you to do, and that's why people think you can do that, is, "Oh, I
Right.
just set it and forget it." But they have you
Right.
do that because when the stock market crashes, they don't want you looking at it. They don't want you getting depressed and mad at
Yes.
them, because they don't know what they're doing. They're
That is so
blind,
true.
leading you as the blind person.
That is so
So you gotta be
true.
careful, right?
That's very true. I like that point because I've heard people talk about passive income as been just set it and forget it. And I'm learning,
Mhm.
no, that doesn't happen. There's something that you have to do in there to kind of like keep it on the minds of everybody, even though you
Yeah.
may forget it. There's something you have to do. Do you
Mhm.
hire teams to work with you on those?
Yeah. So here's what I do is, so like with all my investments, there are usually some other real estate person operating the deal, right? So for example,
Okay.
even my most active, I would say, right, is having rentals. But I buy what are
Right.
called turnkey rentals from turnkey companies who help me find the property, finance the
Right.
property, and then they
Right.
also help me get the property, manage the property. So they're the
Right.
ones taking care of it. They're the ones getting the renters in. I don't do
Mhm.
any of that. I'm hands off.
Right.
Now,
Right.
if there's like a big repair that has to be done and they need to get permission, they might have to ask me. Now it's not passive in.
Right.
Now, if there's a renter or they got to evict somebody, they'll tell me about it, but they're doing all that hard work, right?
Right.
So I
Exactly.
am still
Right.
hands off.
Mhm.
Other ways I make money is like I lend money to real estate investors, because a lot
Mhm.
of real estate investors, especially lately, the last 3 years have been great, because as interest rates climbed, now they're looking more for private money. And so
Right.
I can lend them money at 10, 12, or more percent a year, lend them the
Wow.
money, but then I could also be on the property. So if they
Right.
don't pay me, just like somebody who has a mortgage, right? If you don't pay your
Mhm.
mortgage payment, the bank takes it from you, right? Same thing. I'm the bank now. And if they don't pay me, I can take the property, which usually has to have at least 30% equity in it, right? So even if they don't pay me, I know I can take that property back. I don't want it back. I don't have to go through that
Right.
hassle, but I know I could turn
Right.
around and sell it and probably make more than what they owe me. So
Oh,
those kind
that's
of
good.
things, right? Oil
Yeah.
and gas. I've got money in oil and gas. I've got money in raw land, where raw
Mhm.
land in that partnership, I actually have them buying and selling raw land, and then they'll turn around and sell it to people at 5, 10, 15-year terms, just like a mortgage,
Right.
right? And so
Mhm.
they'll sell it for triple the price of what we bought it for.
Right.
So it's kind of like a buy low, sell high, but then I get paid
Right.
cash off of it, right? So I
Right.
put a 500,000 into that partnership, and I'm getting paid about 13,000 a month. So there's
That's good.
things that you can do that, again, you don't have to be actively doing. You can have the real estate investors be the active ones, but you're the one financing it. And that's the important thing to
Gotcha.
remember. If you don't have any money, I will tell you this, it will never be passive. It will be
Right.
using your time
Right.
or energy to help create
Right.
more money, and that's fine. That's what we all have to do in the beginning. But once
Mhm.
you start to build up that cash, taking that money, and then
Mhm.
you can use that money to get to work harder for you, so you don't have to work so hard
Right.
for it anymore.
Yeah. And that's what you want. And you don't you want the money to work for you, correct? Yes?
That's
Did you say
right.
that? Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah, you
right.
want your money to work harder for you than you do, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You've built your success by going against traditional financial advice. How do you
Mhm.
deal with the pushback from financial gurus who still swear by those things, those games?
Oh, I love it. It gives me podcast material, for my own podcast. It gives me material for my long form, short form videos. It's
Mhm.
great, right? Because you got to have those Dave Ramseys of the world, right? I mean, bless his Tennessee
Right.
heart. He's out there helping a
Right.
lot of people that are not able to make it paycheck to paycheck. He is really meant
Right.
for the broke person, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
the unfortunate thing is a lot of people that listen to him are usually the penny pinching savers already. They're already doing all the stuff he's been asking. They've done it
Right.
forever, and yet they're still broke. Now they'll say, "Oh,
Right.
I'm not as broke as those people are." But the truth is,
Right.
if you ask them, "Can you quit your job right now and comfortably live for the rest of your life, never have to worry about making a dime?" And the answer inevitably is no.
Right.
If they're
Right.
truly honest, right? I've seen a few people that
Mm.
try to their pride gets away. It's like, well, I can live on $2,000 a month and I can make my 500,000 last. Like maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're doing with that
Mhm.
money. But
Yeah.
uh, but that's the thing. And so I love the pushback because the truth is, like I always like to tell them, it's like, well, look at the evidence, right? Tony Robbins
Mm.
says success leaves clues. Well, there should be
Right.
plenty of clues that if this has been working, the whole set and forget it, spend nothing, save everything, save it forever in your crappy mutual funds, and hopefully someday you'll have something. Shouldn't there
Right.
be just millions upon millions of people saying, I
Mhm.
have retired free, financially free? You're
Right.
just not getting that. I mean,
No.
the only people I've seen that sometimes will say, "Well, I saved and it worked for me," they either had a business that they sold for millions of dollars, or they
Mhm.
also bought real estate to enhance what they're already doing in the market.
What
But
you're
people
doing.
that have 100% only put money in the stock market, unless they are really penny pinching cheap sons of guns, to make it very nice on the show, keep it PG for you. To keep, I mean, they're penny pinching everything their whole life, and then they penny pinch even their quote unquote retirement. Yeah, they
Mhm.
might make it. They might be okay, but remember, my dad was that guy. He was
Yeah.
saving everything he could. He was debt free. He was doing everything right. But now he's lived longer than he expected. Now he's into his
Mhm.
his early 80s. He's thinking, "My goodness, like now I've got nothing. I've had to spend it, or I've had to spend it on home health care and things like that for,
Mhm.
nurses that basically in hospitals to keep me alive longer than I wanted to, and those kind of things."
Yeah,
And that's the problem, and many
it
people, I
is.
just tell them, it's like, you can always live on ramen noodles if you want. You'll die faster, and, you'll be cheap too. But again, I don't
Yes.
want that for people. I want them to have an
Yeah.
option. I want them to have choice to say, "You know what? I'm gonna splurge and I'm gonna go visit my grandbabies. I'm gonna go do,
Mhm.
live my life and do stuff. Maybe I don't have to wait till I'm 70 years old. Maybe I can do it when I'm
Mhm.
50 years old or 55."
Right.
That's the
Right.
kind of stuff that gets to be fun for me.
Yes, that's great. What's the most shocking thing you've uncovered about people's hidden cash flow? And how many of us literally are leaving money on the table without even realizing it?
Everything you've been taught by financial institutions that then train the financial advisors that work for them, right?
Mhm.
They're little pawns in the game.
Mhm.
You'll realize your whole life you've been told to put your money in prison. You were told to lock your money away into the equity of your house, right? And then you can't get to it unless because when you need it the most, that's when banks don't want to give you money. And so
Right.
your only option is to sell it. But what if you don't want to sell? What if you don't want to leave home? What if it's a bad market to sell in? Do you really want to do
Right.
that, right? Or lock your money away in a 401k or an IRA. If you work for
Yes.
a company with a
Yes.
401k,
I
you
hear that
can't.
all the time. I hear it all the time. Yes.
Yeah, I mean that kind of stuff is just locking away in prison. Now, is there a
Mhm.
purpose for it? Sure, but the problem is that so many people never feel free along the way. Think about when you put your money in a
Mm.
401k. Everybody gets so hot and bothered about getting that company match, right? Which, by the way, does not give you 100% return. The reason I know
Nope.
that's because if you put into a calculator and you put 100% a year compounded interest, you will become a multi-trillionaire, saving very little. I can promise you, no one has ever been in the news saying this person made trillions of dollars saving their 401k for the last 20 years. Never. Maybe at least
Mhm.
in the news.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, you do make a little bit more money, but it's It's much smaller than most people think. And 401ks have a bad performance. They actually underperform the stock market significantly to where the match just makes up for the bad performance and the high fees, right?
Yeah.
So really, you'd be doing the same, doing it on your own, but at least that money would be free. But they have you lock it away. And so when I get people that
Mhm.
come to us and say, I want to be free, I want that financial freedom, I was like, great, where's your money? Well, I have in my company's 401k. Okay, cool. Well, the only way you can get to it is by quitting or getting fired. I don't recommend either of
Mm.
those, like you don't have to just change a job and possibly have, be unemployed or have a bad job. So
Right.
people realize that like they've locked this money up and they can't do anything with it. Versus that
Mhm.
when they change jobs, well, now it's free game. We can do stuff. Like we can roll over
Right.
a 401k and have you
Right.
invest in real estate. Most people don't know that, but you can
Mhm.
actually do things like that. You can invest it and lend money, just like I said, right? You can do all kinds of things.
That makes sense.
Or
Absolutely sense.
like with one of my clients where she lost her job, she got fired last year. So 2025, she's been unemployed. I was like, you know what? You're barely 55. You can use this rule of 55, or you can actually get the money without the penalty, but you still have to pay
Mm.
taxes. But if this is going to be your lowest income year because you don't have any working income coming in, this might be your year to get the money out of that 401k and get it in your hands. And then you can create passive income to pay you right now instead of waiting until you're
Right.
60 years old. So there's options, but most people don't realize that they're always taught to lock that money away and then they're
Yeah.
stuck. And
Yeah.
instead, if you can get that money out of prison, get it liquid, and then get it out to
Yeah.
somewhere else, then you can actually create freedom right now versus waiting decades from now.
I hear your correlation now to make, that's a really good correlation. You're not debt free because you lock your money away. That is
Yeah.
so good. That is so good. Is that the same? Now I know 401ks work differently, but
Mhm.
I've heard a lot of women that I work with, coaching them, and they're so intent on this pension.
Uh,
Now, can you talk about that?
Pensions, if you can get one, and they're so rare because it's usually just with a few select government employees,
Right, right.
great. Pensions are great.
Hmm.
And the nice thing is the company contributes to it anyways, right? So it's not coming out of your pocket. But
Right,
even if you have a pension, don't think that that's going to save you because we've
right.
seen over time companies
Yes.
have, violated it, or they've even just said, hey, we know we're going to say you're going to get this much. It's now only going to be this much instead.
Right,
Kind
right,
of like Social
right.
Security, right? Like people count on Social Security, same thing. So pensions, I think pensions are great if you get one, and that's
Mhm.
awesome. But do something else with your money that you can control. That's out of your control. And when
Right.
you have no control, you can never have true freedom
Mhm.
because you know that your freedom's always reliant upon somebody else. It's
Yeah.
like being a child again, right? It's like, you never
Mhm.
really know you're safe unless your parents keep you safe. But what if they don't? Right. And that's the same
Mm.
thing with pensions, government, Social Security, and everything else. You've got to do something to also keep you safe as well.
Yeah. Right, right. A lot of people are scared to break free from that grind. What's the
Mm.
biggest fear that holds them back from financial freedom? How do you help them shatter that illusion?
I think the biggest fear is that there are a lot of charlatans out there trying to sell
Mhm.
you on your dreams, right? I mean, I'm talking
Mm.
about, real dreams and whatnot, but I'll tell you, and people ask me like, who's your competitor in this space? And we do like one-on-one coaching with people and help them create this kind of plan. There's not really anybody that does what we do very well, right? Um,
Mm.
but there's a lot of people that claim to do that kind of stuff, or like they've got some online program that you just have to watch a couple videos and you're gonna be financially free, right? And
Right.
that's not true. That's just not the case. Or a lot of times these people aren't free themselves, and they're
Right.
literally lying to you about what they've done,
Right.
and that
Mhm.
bothers me. That's the reason why I can't just retire off into the sunset, just disappear. It's because I
Mhm.
really feel responsibility that to not just fight against what financial advisors are doing, but fight against what other people are doing that are trying to really play on your fears and then never deliver. And then you just lose
Right.
money, right? I've seen so many people
Right.
lose money in different investments, including investments I talk about, but because they put it with either bad actors or bad operators, one of the two,
Mhm.
they end up losing a lot of money. And then, of course, the normal everyday crowd's going to say, "See, I told you so. That's too risky. You shouldn't have done that.
Mhm.
Try to break out of the mold, break out of the box, and look what happened. You put your hand outside the box, you got bit. So just stay in the
Yeah.
box with the rest of us." And that's not what
Yeah.
you should do. Like you should be able to break out of that box and say, you know what,
Mhm.
this box, I know there's tens of millions of people just like myself that are doing it right now, living it.
Hmm.
But again, we're not financial advisors getting paid to tell you that, right? So that's the thing, is that you have to make sure that you're listening
Yeah.
to the right people if you're going to try to do something different. But I'll tell you, if you want the same results as every other American, and like I said, look for evidence. If you want the same results as everybody else, which are not pretty, keep doing what
Hmm.
you're doing. Keep doing what everybody's telling you to do. The
Right.
reality is you've got to do something different. So kind of like Jerry Seinfeld said in an episode with George
Mhm.
Costanza. If you guys ever seen that TV show? And there's an episode called Opposite George, because George is a loser in every episode, but one.
Mhm.
He decided to do the opposite in that one episode. He got a different sandwich, and then he got the girl of his dreams. He got the job of his dreams with the New York
Mhm.
Yankees and everything else, right? All because he decided to do the opposite of his normal behavior, and it worked. And I just tell people
Mhm.
to kind of do the same. Is like, listen, if millions and
To the
millions and millions of people have done the same thing that hasn't worked, why do you expect it to work for you? Do
yeah,
something different.
absolutely. Do it different. I'm in that place right now. I'm telling you, I am so in that place. I work with people that have, experienced trauma, generational or what have you,
Yeah.
and with trauma, right? And I
Mhm.
hear a lot about their money situations because trauma does get into money, and I want to
Absolutely.
hear your take on that, on how it affects people's finances, and what steps would you take to kind of unlock that real wealth in them?
Yeah, it's very important to understand how you were raised around money, especially if you're in a marriage or some kind of relationship with a partner or something like that, because you bring two different paths and other people's trauma and weird stuff with you, right? This is
Hmm.
why
Yeah.
people are like, you got to pay off your mortgage. Why? Because our grandparents during the Great Depression, literally at that time, it was legal for the bank to say, listen, you haven't paid off your mortgage, pay it off or we take it away from you right now. And
Right.
because
Right.
banks
Right.
were, short of money. But after the
Hmm.
19 but in the 1930s, they created a law saying, no, as long as you're making on time payments, the mortgage company cannot take it back from you. Different rules, different game, yet we're still living by those same rules as way back when. And that's the problem, is that we're playing by old rules that don't apply anymore, right?
Right.
And
Oh,
then
that's good.
401k, people are like, oh, I'm going to be in a cheaper tax bracket when I'm older. How do you know?
Mm,
'Cause the truth is, with inflation, you're going to have to spend more money. Even if the tax brackets
yeah.
don't change, guess what? You're going to be in a higher tax bracket. But they
Yeah.
always tell you
Yeah.
you're going to be a lower tax bracket, but that's just not the reality, right? So
Right.
things like that. So if you have trauma, there's three money mindsets you should think about.
Okay.
Most people are either a spender or a saver. Both of these mindsets are in scarcity. Neither of them
Mm,
work. Neither of them serve you. A spender, we get the spender, right? It's easy come, easy go. You
right.
hyper
Right.
focus on the income you're making, but you
Yeah.
ignore what you're spending because you just kind of money comes in and it goes out and it's gone. The saver does the opposite. The saver hyper focuses on all the expenses. If they pay a bill,
Mm.
they feel bad about having to pay a bill. I had a saver try to convince me they were a spender because they pay bills. I was like, if that's ever evidence that you're a saver, if you're feeling guilty about being alive,
Uh-huh.
paying the water bill, that's a problem, right?
That's
That's
a
how you
good
know
one.
you're a
That's a
saver.
really good one. I like
Yeah, it's
that.
like, think about it, like, he created all that trauma, you know? I mean, that's
Mhm.
that's ridiculous. I've known so many people that have convinced other people that they were broke, absolutely flat broke, yet they had hundreds of thousands of dollars lying around, but they were just like, "No, I'm broke, I'm broke." See, neither of those work. Neither of them work. A saver can never
Right.
spend money, can never save enough, they can never pay off their debt fast enough, they're always feeling bad.
Right.
Spenders, they're
Mhm.
always spending the money, but they never have freedom. They always have to keep hustling.
Mhm.
You need to learn to be a steward, a wise steward of your money, which is the best of the spender and the saver in one person. Because spenders are
Oh, that's
willing to
good.
use money, they just use it
Mhm.
unwisely. Savers want to be wise with their money, but they just hoard it. They cash it away
Right.
and it does nothing. They let other people make money off of them instead of them make money.
Mhm.
Stewards say, what's the highest and best use of this money that can actually generate more freedom? That can create, not just
Mhm.
improve my life, but improve the lives of those around me, right? Well, that's why we call the
Mhm.
company Money Ripples, right? What's the ripple effect you can
Mhm.
create when you financially prosper? And that's the same
That's
thing
good.
here. It's like, you got to be a wise steward of your resources. How do you grow it and multiply it? Just like the parable of talents in the Bible, right? Like, how do you actually
Right.
grow and
Right.
multiply it, not hoard it away like that third servant in the Bible
Mhm.
who then got cast out, right? That's a saver.
Right.
Savers get cast
Right.
out. You don't want to be that. You want to be the steward that's willing to take money and use it in ways that not just enhances your life and creates passive income, but blesses the lives of
Mhm.
those around you.
Yeah. I like that. Oh, I love that. I just love it. Oh, this is so good. This is so good, audience. I tell you, I love talking about money because, of course, I'm from trauma. So I'm always healing and going in those dark corners, kind of finding things. Hey, got to heal myself on those things. This is really
Yeah.
good information. I always say every time I have a new guest, I say it's for me first and my audience second, right, audience? So, where and what are you doing now, Chris, that you can share with the audience what you're doing, where you're going, where we can find you? Let us all know about the goings on.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned a few times Money Ripples, right? Anything Money Ripples, moneyripples.com, Money Ripples podcast on all platforms. We also have even at Money Ripples with social media. But
Okay.
the main thing we're doing is really just educating people to break free, as we've been talking about here, right? Even that
Yes.
abundance mentality that goes along with trauma too. Like many people have just trained in scarcity, like I was. I lived in a trailer park for 5 years. Like money was never an abundant thing until
Hmm.
later when I became an adult. When I changed my mentality around that. So we talk a
Right.
lot about that and strategies and whatnot. And
Okay.
actually, I'm even writing a book called Work Optional Blueprint, talking about that story and how I was able to, eventually, like I said, become financially free twice. And
Hmm.
so that book's going to be released here this fall. So be looking for that too.
Awesome. That's terrific. Well, if you're feeling inspired by Chris's message, make sure you check him out, Money Ripples, okay? And start creating your own path to financial freedom today. You can do this. He's saying you can do it. I believe you can do it. We both believe that you can do it. So make sure you look for him because I am definitely going to look him up even more now and pay attention to what he's saying. This is Edna White, your host of Keeping It Real, and my guest, none other than the Money Man himself. And we want to thank you for being here. And remember, keep it real. Bye for now.